Welcome to the deep dive. For too long, we, in the data world, we've kind of celebrated the complexity of our work, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. The clever models, the intricate code, just the sheer amount of data we can crunch.
Yeah, we spend so much time looking closely at the individual trees, admiring the technical details of our analysis. But today, we're actually going to step back. We're going to look at the whole forest.
That's exactly the mission. Look, every analysis you do doesn't matter if it's a complex regression or just a simple report. It only really matters if it achieves its goal, right?
Right.
Our focus, maybe too much, has been on the how, the execution.
Right.
Now, we need to shift completely. Think strategy.
Yeah.
How do you communicate what you found so well that it actually leads to someone doing something? So this deep dive, it's basically your shortcut to getting really good at the strategic side of data communication.
And we've boiled it down, haven't we, into 6 core principles. They're all connected. You can almost think of them like a checklist to make things super clear and, importantly, easy for your audience to grasp. Less brain strain.
Yeah. Exactly. Less cognitive cost.
So we're starting with the mindset, the foundation, context matters. Then we get practical. Visualization derives from data. Then efficiency. Less is more. Guiding the eye with hierarchy among data, realizing that beauty counts for impact. And finally, putting it all together, telling your story. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Principle 1. Why is context matters the absolute must-do first step?
Well, because without it, you're just throwing numbers out there. It's trivia, not insight. Every single analysis needs to be anchored by 2 things. What's the specific goal and who exactly is the audience? If you don't nail those down first, you risk spending all this time sharing stuff that's just irrelevant to the actual decision someone needs to make.
I think that's a huge trap for analysts, especially when you've done really complex work. You want to show everything. Look at all the models I ran. Look at the data cleaning. Is that why we have to separate exploration from the final report?
Precisely. Data exploration. That's for you. That's where you satisfy your curiosity, follow leads. The final report, though, that's about serving the audience's need. Do you have to actively fight that urge to, show off your workings?
Right.
If your audience is, say, a senior exec, they likely don't need the nitty-gritty execution details.
They need this so what?
Exactly. They need the implication. You constantly need to be answering that so what question for them.
That difference, satisfying curiosity versus serving a need, that's huge. Okay, what about the numbers themselves? If I just say our retention rate is 85%, what's missing?
The comparison. Isolated numbers, they're meaningless for making actual decisions based on evidence.
Yeah.
You absolutely need some kind of relevant benchmark, something to link to the report's goal. Is 85% good, bad, average?
You don't know unless you compare it.
Right, compare it to last quarter or last year or maybe what the competition's doing. Context isn't just fluffy background info, it's the framework. It turns a plain number into something you can act on. It either gives new information to help understand the data, or it reinforces something they already know but need to remember right now.
Okay, crystal clear. Goal set, audience defined. Now let's get into the doing. Principle 2. Visualization derives from data. Once we know what needs comparing, how do we pick the right picture, the right chart?
Yeah, and this isn't just personal preference. It's not subjective. The chart choice is pretty much dictated by the type of data you have and, crucially, how many dimensions you need to show. And the big constraint here, the reality check, is that most reports get looked at on a screen or paper, basically 2D.
Right.
So trying to cram more than 2 dimensions onto a standard chart, like a bar or line graph, you have to be really careful. It often just confuses people.
Our source material was really emphatic about one thing. Use graphs, not tables, if you want to show a relationship or a trend or make a comparison clear.
Yeah, because our brains are wired for visuals. We spot trends in a graph way faster than scanning rows and columns of numbers. But, and this is a big but, we have to talk about the pitfalls. We've all seen those charts that just make you want to scream.
Oh, yeah. The dual axis chart pops into my head immediately. That's where people trying to compare 2 totally different things.
With totally different sales.
On the same visual space. It's chaos.
It creates so much unnecessary mental work, that cognitive friction we talk about. The second your audience has to stop, squint at the legend, figure out which line goes with which axis, then try and compare the slopes.
Yeah.
You've lost them. The story's gone.
Yep.
So the advice is blunt. Avoid dual axis, please. And if you think a dual axis is bad, well, the idea of a triple axis chart, that's just madness.
It really is the visual equivalent of shouting random facts in a library.
Perfect analogy. Other common traps.
Yeah.
Watch out for scales that can be manipulated so easily to mislead. And The never-ending battle against the pie chart. Look, unless you have a very simple part-to-whole story with just a few distinct slices.
A bar chart is almost always better.
Almost always clearer for comparing sizes accurately. Yeah.
Okay, so choose the right chart type. Don't try to cram too much in. Now, how do we make sure the chart itself isn't just a noisy? This brings us nicely to principle 3, less is more. Separate signal from noise. This is really about being kind to our audience's brains, isn't it?
Absolutely. The goal here is very specific. Cut down your audience's cognitive costs. Reduce that load. Every line that doesn't need to be there, every label that's redundant, every bit of color that isn't actually showing data, it's just static.
Noise.
Exactly. It eats up mental energy that should be going into understanding the core message.
The sources gave us a great way to think about this formally.
Yeah, the data-ink ratio. It sounds technical, but the idea is simple.
How does it work practically?
It's just the ratio of the ink used purely for the data, divided by all the ink on the graphic.
So ink showing data versus total ink.
Right. Put simply, you want to maximize that ratio. Get rid of every speck of ink that isn't data. If you can erase something, a line, a label, a border, and the data is still perfectly understandable,
Then erase it.
you probably should.
Yeah.
Declutter.
That's a powerful principle.
Okay.
Practically speaking, what are the quick wins? Where can we get the most impact cleaning things up? Because listing all 6 steps feels a bit academic.
Good point.
Yeah.
Let's focus on, say, 3 high-leverage things. First, get rid of the chart border, that box around the whole graph.
Totally unnecessary.
Serves zero purpose.
Great.
Just delete it. Second, grid lines. They often just clutter things up visually. So clean the grids, maybe make them super faint, light gray, almost invisible. Yeah. Or even better, if the data points are clear enough without them.
Remove them entirely.
Remove them entirely. I find heavy grid lines really tiring to look at.
Me too. What's the third big win?
Processing the axes. Get rid of redundant labels. Like if the axis label says thousands of dollars, stop putting $1,000 next to every single number on the tick marks.
Just use clean numbers.
Exactly. Label the axis clearly once. Use clean numbers. Do those 3 things: border, grid lines, axis labels, and boom, you've instantly made the chart much easier to read. Huge reduction in cognitive load right there.
Okay, so we stripped away the clutter. We have a clean visual slate. Now, how do we make sure people look where we want them to look? Straight to the main point. This seems like where the next 2 principles really connect. Hierarchy among data and beauty counts.
Exactly. We're shifting from cleaning to highlighting. And yeah, these 2 principles, 4 and 5, they often get mushed together, but thinking about them separately is useful. Hierarchy among data is the strategic part. It's deciding which specific data point or trend is the most important thing for this report's goal. Because not all data is created equal, right? Some points are more critical than others. You have to decide which one gets the spotlight.
Okay, so hierarchy is the what, and booty counts is the how.
Pretty much. Beauty here doesn't mean just making it pretty for the sake of it. It means efficient, purposeful design. It's about how you use visual elements to instantly draw the eye to the data you decided was most important. Your hierarchy.
And this is where color comes in strategically.
Absolutely. You don't just splash 5 bright colors everywhere because you can. No. You maybe use a neutral color, like gray, for most of the data, the context, and then one single, vibrant, high-contrast color for the specific thing you want them to notice first.
Got it. So it's not just aesthetics. We're using design, like color and maybe buildness, to enforce that hierarchy we decided on. It's like putting the headline in bold in a news article.
Precisely. It basically guarantees the audience sees the main takeaway immediately. It reduces the risk they get distracted by secondary details or misinterpret the main finding. At the end of the day, both hierarchy and strategic design are about making sure that key message lands instantly. No delay, no confusion.
Okay, this is all building beautifully. So we've defined context, chosen the right visual, cleaned it up, highlighted the key point. What does it all mean when we wrap it up? Principle 6, telling your story.
This is it. This is where all that groundwork pays off. It's where the pieces come together into a single, compelling, final narrative. You're moving beyond just showing a chart. You're building an argument. You take that initial, maybe messy data, you clean it, you prioritize based on your goal, and then you tweak the visual step by step until it tells a crystal clear, focused story that hammers home your conclusion.
Can you give us a real-world example of that step-by-step narrative building?
Sure. Think about the early analysis of COVID-19 cases. Remember how noisy the raw daily numbers were? Up, down, all over the place?
Oh yeah, really volatile.
If you just presented that raw data, it probably created more confusion, maybe even panic, than clarity. So the strategic choice, the narrative move, was often to apply a moving average. smoothing the line.
Right, showing the trend over, say, 7 days.
Exactly. Now that technical step, applying the average, wasn't just analysis. It was a communication choice. By smoothing the data, you deliberately shifted the narrative. You changed the story from daily chaos to overall trajectory. And that trajectory was what mattered for public health decisions, not the day-to-day bumps. The underlying data didn't change, but the story did.
That's a brilliant example. It shows how the analytical choices directly shape the story the audience receives. The source material also mentioned analyzing deaths in New York, same idea, right? Making strategic choices to clarify the narrative.
Absolutely. It's all about conscious choices to guide perception towards the intended insight. And, if you want to see this done really, really well, the material suggested checking out resources like Flowing Data or Information is Beautiful. Alberto Cairo's book, The Functional Art, is great too.
And they highlighted the Financial Times COVID data visuals.
Yeah, they were often held up as world-class examples because they managed that tricky balance, showing necessary detail but being incredibly rigorous about cutting out cognitive noise. Really masterful storytelling with data.
This has been fantastic. It gives us such a practical workflow, moving from raw analysis to really strategic communication. So for everyone listening, keep these 6 principles in mind, almost like a checklist for your next report or presentation. Start with context, know your audience, know your goal, make sure your visualization derives from data, choose the right chart, avoid traps like dual axes, embrace less is more, cut the clutter, reduce that cognitive load, establish a clear hierarchy, what's the main point, use design strategically, because beauty counts, to guide the eye, and pull it all together to tell your story effectively.
And maybe one final thought to connect this back. Shifting from being just a data producer to being a skilled data communicator. It really demands you critically question the purpose of your report before you even think about making a chart. Take that dating ratio idea we talked about, ruthlessly cutting visual clutter. Think about the last report you work on, or maybe the one you're doing now. Where, honestly, could you achieve maybe a 50% reduction in cognitive cost for your audience today just by stripping out the noise? Things like chart borders, maybe too many grid lines, redundant labels, that commitment to subtraction, to actively removing things. That's often the very first, most powerful step towards real clarity.